guys, welcome back to the Keys to Success podcast. This is your girl, Talisa Stubbs. Deba Douglas is not able to be here today, but Deba is here in spirit. But I do have a special guest. Today, I would like to introduce a woman. Her name is Miah. Miah is out of Florida, and I was actually introduced to Miah by somebody that I'm affiliated with, Brittany Berryman, who happens to be a part of Astro Flipping with Jamil Damji. And so she told me so many great things about Miah. And then I seen her literally like killing it on Jamil's challenge for what was it? Was it the agent? Yes, out there just straight killing it. So I was like, I have to bring you onto the podcast. I have to know your story. And so without further ado, you guys, here is my girl Miah.
What's up? Hey, thank you so much for having me, Talisa. I greatly appreciate it. It's definitely an honor. Just to let you know, this has nothing to do with the podcast, but in about 30 minutes, the oven is going to beep for a pecan pie that my wife requested today, and that was an urgent matter. I won't be leaving to get it. She'll come out and she'll take it out herself. But
okay.
Just so you know.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so are you guys both like big on pecan pie? Because I'm more of like a peach cobbler with vanilla ice cream kind of girl.
Yes. Okay, hit me with some peach cobbler, some bread pudding, some apple pie, some sweet potato pie. This was her request, and I've never made it before, but she does this thing where she goes emergency and she'll like send a recipe, and that means make it right now.
Oh, great. So this is your first time ever making it?
Yes.
Oh man, I'm excited to see how it's gonna come out.
Oh, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. I already I made like the caramel filling already, and once I tasted that, I knew the rest was just gonna be perfect.
You're like, I'm good.
Yeah.
So Miah, tell us, how did you even get started in real estate? Were your parents real estate investors? How did you even get into this field?
My dad, I do believe my dad, when I was younger, I do think he did flip a few properties. But that was when I was really young. I don't think I was ever on site for any of that. And I don't know why he stopped. People come in and out the business for different reasons. But what really sparked it, well, my wife was watching, and she watches, what's it called? $1 Million Listing or something like that.
Oh yeah. I've heard of that show.
Well, she was watching that. And so before a few years before the pandemic, she would say, "Oh, you would be so good at this. I can just see you doing this." And I'm like, I'm a personal trainer. This is what I'm focusing on. I'm a Capricorn. So I'm a one-track mind. This is what it is. That's it.
Right.
And the pandemic happened. So I had to move my business online, my personal training business. And we also used that as an opportunity to move to Florida. We were in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And we had been wanting to move to South Florida for a while, but you have clients, so you're doing the in-person thing. It's hard to break away. Pandemic happened. It's now easier to break away. And our realtor that we found, after a few not so great ones, she's also an investor. I call her my mentor, whether she wants to claim it or not. And her name is Kimberly Smith. She's like the best in South Florida, period, hands down. And the experience of working with her to buy our first house and listening to her talk and how she sold us the house. Like, she's like, let me tell you, like, it's going to appreciate in this area. This is what you're in. This is what's in your proximity. Like, trust me. And then and then she physically like showed me different areas, and then showed me comps and what comps meant and the difference between different neighborhoods. She's like, look at what this house sold for in 2015 and what it's selling for now. That's lower appreciation. She said, look at your house, look at it from 2015 to now. This is high appreciation. So she was like showing us all these things. And I just loved the way her mind worked. And that really planted, the seed was already planted, but that was like the water in the sun.
Yeah.
The seed. And once we got in this house, I knew real estate was what I wanted to do. I didn't know how, but I knew I was getting in there.
Wow. And so you said you guys are like still like pretty tight right now.
Very close. She helped me stage my flip. She was just texting me the other day to take the furniture back out of the house to go put in some $1 million property that she done bought on some island in the Keys. But in the meantime, while she was in between properties, because she sold one and she lent us her furniture so we could stage our house, and it saved her because she got to like put it someplace, and now she's like,
oh, that's so neat. So you got like some bomb ass furniture in your flip right now?
Yes.
Oh shoot. Okay, so tell me about this flip. What are the numbers looking like? Where is it at? Like, tell me the story on this. I'm excited.
Okay, please don't be excited. So
Oh
it
shoot.
it it, it was as I guess first flips go, right? You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And there's no way around that. Some people I think hit it out the park on their first flips. Many do not actually. When I was first telling people this is what I'm buying, everyone was just like, "Hey, it's okay if you lose money. It happens on the first flip." This is what I heard from everybody. Hey, it's all right if you lose
Right.
money. Just go in there. If you need any help, let me know. But usually that's what happens on the first flip. This is what I'm hearing from like everyone around me. I'm like, I ain't gonna lose no money. I got this.
I'm invincible. What you mean?
I'm not losing money, but by no means are we making much of anything. So we bought it at 285. We're selling it for 383 500. Now I do think had the market not shifted, we would have been able to inch that up more toward the 400 mark.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're selling it around that much, and we put of our own cash, like me and my partners, of our own cash, we put about 70K in. That includes our down payment, closing costs, and interest payments so far.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
and like holding costs like insurance, taxes. So, because the rehab is funded by the hard money lender, so that's a part of the loan that we pay off.
Right. And so was it like a complete gut where you guys would have
No,
to
no,
do
praise God,
okay.
no. It was really a cosmetic. Oh, geez, there's a fly they got in here. It was really a cosmetic remodel, but the issue with it were that it had open permits and a couple of violations. So we've been working with the city to clear that up.
Oh, okay. So, Mia, for those viewers who may not really understand what that process consists of, having an open permit, all those things, what are some like tips that you can give somebody who's doing their first flip and who's just starting off? What do they need to know about what they need to do with the city?
Don't do that. Don't do what I did. Do not take on a house with violations. Permits are probably just okay because you could probably just find out what the permit was for and close it out or cure whatever condition it was if it's not too bad. But if it's coming with violations so in our case, it was a violation for work done without permits, but they were counting some work that was done way back when. And thank God for like Google and research, we were able to find because they were saying that the house had a garage that was enclosed, but whatever it was done before the 70s. And we were able to find a photo of the house and it's as is condition from the 70s that showed that there was no garage there. So it should
Mm.
technically be grandfathered in. So that's helping us. But what happens when there's work done without permits, and especially something like an enclosed garage, you have to create plans. Um, and that's where the money and the inconvenience kind of come in because you need like an architect, you need an architect, you need engineers. Things have to be certified. There's affidavits. There's like all these little pieces that add up with each and every department, and
Mhm.
and it's very time consuming and expensive. So it's not something that I would do again. If it was just like, oh, there's an open permit because there was a fence, like that's a lot easier. You just make sure the fence is up to code, reapply for the permit, and do an inspection, and you close it out. That's easy. But if
Right.
it's like work done without permits, that's when you have to now show an updated plan of what was done, and you need an architect, engineers, the whole 9 yards, and it gets a little bit complicated.
And so, did you guys find out about I guess, about the violations after title ran all their stuff?
No, we knew about it before. That's how we got a lower price.
Oh, okay. So you guys used that to negotiate a lower price. Got it.
Yes. But I didn't know how difficult this process was going to be. Otherwise, I would have gotten an even lower price.
I know that's right.
But now I know. Now I know it can be done, but I would have wanted an extra like 20K off just to make it a little bit more doable, or even 10 just to handle the extra holding costs of dealing with the city.
Right, because that's a waiting game. So how long did you guys have to wait before somebody was actually able to come, an architect, draw up the plans, all that stuff? What was like the time period?
We were able to get people out there fairly quickly, but it's the back and forth with the city that took time. So by the time plans actually got submitted, so what the team that we hired, what they were doing were they were kind of discussing the property with the different departments. So you got to think there's different departments. So you have building and zoning, then there's plumbing, then there's electrical, then there's mechanical. So they're setting up different meetings with each of these departments to figure out how they like their plans submitted, what needs to be on there, and kind of going over stuff before they complete their plans and certify them to make sure that there's not as many revisions, which worked out. But by the time we actually got plans submitted after all that back and forth was only the beginning of October.
Wow. And you guys got it under contract when? Or when you guys closed, when did you close on it?
We're closing next month. We got it under contract in end of September, so we're kind of
Okay. Okay. Oh, wow. And so, Miah, are you still, because I know that you were wholesaling as well. So are you still wholesaling
yes,
primarily? And then you were just kind of dabbling into like the flips?
correct.
Okay. Okay. And so the wholesale operation, how has that operation been going with the height of the interest rates, the shift in the market? How has that affected your business personally?
Oh, it's affected it entirely. On top of the fact that I also went out of town and got married and had a honeymoon, so my business kind of lost momentum a little bit as interest rates went up. So when we got back, it was kind of like hitting the ground running and starting from ground zero.
Yeah.
So our last really big month was August. I think it was like a little over 40K. It was a really great month. But in
Wow.
September there was nothing because I was in Europe for like 3 weeks. And since we've been back, we've gained momentum. We have a closing coming up next week, a property under contract that we should be able to get assigned next week. So things are starting to pick back up, but it was like dead quiet for September.
Yeah, I would have to say the same thing. I would say about August, things really kind of started to slow down. And we actually started doing more creative deals and assigning those creative deals. So, is that what you've noticed? Is that the creative deals are a little bit easier to get, or what are you seeing?
Well, we're starting that those are now our conversations. So we've also pivoted to a little bit more of agent outreach and wholesaler outreach, as opposed to just we were doing the MLS strategy of offering on to properties directly on the market. So we've had to pivot and kind of leverage relationships more,
Right.
and that's proving to be where we need to be. And then for the offers that we are submitting online, we're submitting our cash offer, but we're really talking like we're looking for properties that look like they may own it free and clear, and that is owned by a person, not a corporation. And if we see that, then we're like pushing creative on the phone. And we've had a few conversations, nothing's panned out, but people are starting to, if I'm like, hey, I could probably do your asking price, but it would need to be like this.
Hmm.
So we're starting to have those conversations now.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. And I would say a lot more sellers are so much more open, especially when you come out the bat like, your asking price is 675. I can give you 700,000 if you give me terms, A lot of them are like, okay, well, yeah, what's terms? It's
Right.
like, once they start to inquire about it and you tell them about it, like you become the investor. You get to get
Yep.
cash flow every single month. You never have to worry about a tenant. You never have to worry about maintenance, none of that. And we're going to give you a down payment. So, and then they start to ask these questions.
Yep.
How much would you guys pay me per month? Well, you're the bank. You're the
Yep.
bank. So how much would you like to see per month? And I always do that and kind of leave it in their hands as
Yep.
far as like what they want, as far as like a down payment, because I've messed myself up in the past saying we can give you, 30,000 down. They're like, oh wow, I was only thinking I was gonna get like 10,000. I'm like, well, I'll give you 10 then.
Well, you can't really dial it back after that. Yeah.
No, no. So would you agree that you got to kind of have that open ended conversation, allow them to say what their number is first?
I I definitely think so. Yes. Because then you can kind of see where they are and where you need to go and what the next step is. Sometimes if you talk too much, you can like just put your foot in your mouth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I completely agree. So, I know that this in real estate investing is not easy. Like you just discussed, the flip has already had its own, complications. But what would you say? Because all of these, well, at times we consider them to be losses, but in reality, they're really lessons. And
Yeah.
so, what are some of the losses, well, that you thought of as a loss at the moment that actually turned into like a learning lesson for you later on?
So I don't really think of anything as a loss. I've been an entrepreneur for a while now, so I love, not that I enjoy the lesson in the moment, but
Mhm.
I do welcome it. So like I said, even with this flip, like we're not making like a ton of money, but I am so much more prepared going into the next one. Like I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah.
Uh gosh, okay, so lessons. There's so many that come up. Hey, like it's hard to say. Like there's because everything is so like scenario based. Like
Yeah.
oh my gosh, my mind is blanking at.
Well, I would say one thing, like you've already given me a lesson, as far as it pertains to buying a property that's got violations,
That was definitely
getting it, like having that sort of knowledge going into your first or going into a flip. It's going to prevent so much money, being spent, so much time being spent. And so that's one thing that I'm jotting down on my little journal is, okay, Talisa, do not do this when you do your first flip because Mia said,
Oh, and in regards to the flip though, know what type of sink you're going to get before you order cabinets, because we had to change our sink. We wanted a farmhouse sink, and then we paid for these custom cabinets because it was a very small kitchen, and we didn't tell the person making the custom cabinets that we were doing a farmhouse sink that had that drop in there. So
yeah.
we had to switch sinks.
Oh,
It worked out fine, but that was just you just don't think of it. You just
yeah.
like I'm just thinking of the cabinets to fit the space and the color of the cabinets, and I didn't think like, oh shoot, I wanted to put this farmhouse sink, and now this cabinet doesn't support that.
Gotcha. All those little things. And so did you guys have to remove any wall barriers to like open up the space, or did you pretty
We
much
had
keep
to
the
push a
walls?
wall back. We had to push a wall back.
Okay. And what was that experience like, seeing like the house being like reconstructed and like moved? Like what was that like?
It was good. I honestly would say here's another lesson. I do wish I appreciated the process more. I think my brain at the time, and even still, is just in like problem solve
Yeah.
mode and checklist. I'm like, okay, great. So here we go. So what time? So when will this be done? Okay. So what else do you need here? And so that was kind of me. Like it was like project management the entire
Okay.
time. It was there were. I don't think I stopped to like be like ooh and ah until it was like completely staged. My wife staged it. My one of my
Oh.
really close friends came down and like helped us out too. And once it was all done, I looked around and said, "Oh man, this looks great."
All that hard work that you put in, like it paid off.
Yeah, it did. Um,
Wow.
and then as far as wholesaling, not that anything was ever a loss, but I think the biggest lesson in general with real estate, I would say, is consistency in your input, right? Like what you're putting in your business, like having a set number of like offers you want to submit, a set number of conversations you want to do, a set number of networking events you hit per month. Like just have your numbers that work for you and hit them every single day without being concerned like without the emotional attachment to any one offer or the emotional attachment to any one conversation or one person. Don't put your don't put your stuff on any person or
You can
anything.
say it.
Okay. but but just focus on the work at hand, right? Still visualize what you want to achieve so you can manifest that, but do the work, and whatever you want will come out. And it's gonna show up, and it's gonna manifest in a way that maybe you didn't see in the moment. So it's really about just like doing the work. Like when I do that and I take my emotions out of it, boom, deals every time.
Wow. And let's break that down really quick, Miah, because I think that a lot of people that get into just like the wholesale business, they don't see themselves closing a lot of deals like those first couple of months, and they're trying to figure out like what is it. And I think a lot of the times it is because there isn't that level of consistency.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about hitting your numbers, having a set number of offers you want to put in, what do your numbers look like when you wake up in the morning? What are your goals as far as like how many calls you want to make per day, how many offers you want to put in per day, how many properties you want to close per month? What does that look like for you?
So right now, like I said, we had to pivot, so we're more on wholesaler outreach right now, and so we've been picking up our conversations. So last week, because there's me, my wife, and I have another teammate. Last week, our goal was to have 400 conversations between the three of us for the week, and we surpassed that. I forget by how much. So now this week, the goal is to do 550, and that's for conversations. And then for offers, that has lowered just because that strategy isn't working as much as it was. So we're kind of doing like that 80-20. So 80% is in outreach, 20% is now in offers. So that's more like 10 to 15 a week
Right.
per person. So between me and Sasha, we're the ones that do the MLS strategy. So around like 10 to 15 per week. It was 25. But we lowered it so more of our focus can go on the conversations.
And so, how are you guys reaching out to wholesalers to do wholesale outreach? Are you guys reaching out on Facebook? How are you getting in contact with your partners?
So I did a lot of outreach when I first got started, and that's been kind of carrying me, as well as I'm very active in my Astro community, so that's also been carrying me. So I don't really actively reach out that much, but I run across other wholesalers when I'm looking for buyers, and so then I just keep them in my network. And when I'm doing my agent outreach, because there's a lot of buyers who have real estate licenses like myself, like I even get calls. So when I call someone, they're like, "Oh, well, you're looking for what I'm looking for." I'm like, "Great, well, tell me more. Like I can bring
Right. Right.
or they'll say, or I can tell through their conversation, just different keywords that they are wholesaling. Or my teammate had called an agent and she said, "I don't really look for those properties, but my son does. He just started wholesaling and he needs help. Like, can you guys help him?" Great.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So nowadays I come across other wholesalers either in person at my networking events, or through my outreach, or through outreach I've already done. Like the referrals come in. Someone will be like, "Hey, so and so told me to reach out to you." So that's already kind of, paying it back, I guess.
You've already built up that momentum. You've already started building those relationships. So like somebody that you may have been introduced to last year, you still have contact with that person. And so that's one thing that I do want to tell our viewers is, the people that you surround yourself with and the people that you choose to have relationships with, that plays a big part in how many deals you're able to close.
Absolutely.
The how smooth your deal is. I mean, imagine being a brand new wholesaler, never having looked at a contract, never having opened up escrow, none of those things. But when you are able to partner with a wholesaler who's done it before, well, guess what? Now you get to, kind of lean on them for contracts and lean on them for title. But it's just like while you're going through that, pay attention,
Yeah.
learn so that the next time you can do it on your own.
Speaking of that, like being brand new and not being familiar with contracts, I do urge anyone that is brand new, before you put a property under contract, you need to read your contract line by line. If there is something in that contract you do not understand, you need to ask someone. If you don't have another wholesaler you can ask, you can honestly just call the title company. Call the title company, have them, ask them questions, call a nearby realtor, right? Go into a real estate office. Just ask those questions and understand that legal document that you as a buyer are putting yourself on. That's the thing that we have to remember, is that this is big stuff. We're dealing with hundreds of thousands of dollars in someone's property that they need to sell for whatever reason. So we can't take that, oh, I'm just going to try this out, this wholesale thing. Like this shit is real. This is real life. This is someone's life here.
Yep.
This is their asset that they are now entrusting in you to purchase, so that responsibility and accountability, like we need to take that on. And I think that will change how we operate as a wholesale community too, is just really treating it like the serious matter that it is.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. I feel like us wholesalers have kind of gotten a bad name over the years, just because of people doing things the unethical way, like you said, not really taking this responsibility serious. But you guys, this is a legally binding contract. Like it is a legally binding contract. And so, like Miah was saying, like read through every single line. If there's something that you don't know, don't try to just brush it over and just assume that it's going to work itself out. You might be thinking that you have 10 days to have an inspector come in, but you may only have a 3-day option period or
Right.
3 days for EMD. And if you're not reading that, then you're not gonna enjoy the process, because you're gonna be dealing with stuff and having to pay money that you weren't expecting to pay in the end.
Right. And
And
also know that it's fraud if your intention is not to purchase a property. So you must have backing from either an investor, a hard money lender. Like have the backing to purchase the property, even if you decide later that you want to assign it. But analyze those deals like you are the buyer, because you are, and have the backing that if you need to buy it, you can. Like have that stuff in place.
yes, and then you know what? Another thing that I was gonna say, because you said something that brought something up. Dang it.
What was it? What did we say?
Dang it.
We're talking about reading the contract, being serious, responsibility, accountability.
Oh, Miah. Okay, what would you say? Okay, because I'm the type of person where after I'm done analyzing a deal, before I even get it under contract, I'm already thinking of who my buyers are,
Okay.
and I'm already assessing whether or not I actually have a buyer. But I know some people they get something under contract and they don't necessarily have a buyer. They get under contract and then they start looking for a buyer. What are your thoughts on that? What do you say is the best way to go about doing that?
I think it can work either way. I do think it's better to have a buyer or two in mind, but sometimes they don't want something. Like I got a property not that long ago in a certain community that I just knew this buyer would want, and he was like, I don't want it.
Really?
Yeah, for different reasons. Give me one second.
Oh no, you're good.
For different reasons, but that's also where having like a pool of buyers in really good relationships with other dispo wholesalers come into play. So I would say have those relationships there. Like even if you don't have the buyers, have relationships with people who do. Like I've moved 2 to 3 properties in Central East Florida, and I don't have a single buyer myself in that area, but I have some rock star dispo wholesalers. Like they are amazing. So if I get something in Central East Florida, I'm like, boom, Rhonda, here you go. Hey, Jessica, boom, here you go. Got it for you. And I haven't even bothered. They sell everything. So I haven't even bothered trying to find buyers because they have everyone. Like, I mean, they don't have everyone, but they get the job done. And so it's been good so far.
Girl, that's what I'm talking about when you try to get yourself around like a rock star team. If you have like a killer dispositions team, where I have a guy who he is like killer with the hedge funds. He used to work for a hedge fund like years ago, young cat too. Used to work for a hedge fund years ago, so he has like this inner knowledge of how they work within the business.
Excellent.
And so like he can get your deals purchased by a hedge fund in like minutes. I'm just like, dang, dude, like that's what's up.
Great
So
person.
heck yeah, you guys. If you don't have the skill set or if you don't have the relationships, find the people who do, and be willing, like I said in the last episode, I think Deborah said it, it was be willing to split the profit.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with going 50-50. If you brought the deal, but somebody else is gonna assign it for you, then don't have a problem splitting it 50-50. I don't know where, some wholesalers are like, well, I don't want to give you 50%, I'll give you, but it's just like, you guys, if it weren't for the disposition side, then you wouldn't be making any money. So what are your thoughts on that, Miah?
No, I definitely agree. I do 50-50 all the time. I JV quite often. I have more JV deals than I do direct to buyer deals. And but a lot of that is also just because I've only been doing this for about a year. So my pool of buyers is very small compared to others. And then my personal relationships with buyers is even smaller than that. Like the ones who I can just call up or go out to eat or lunch, like that's even smaller.
Right.
They're great. They're good to have because I also know their buy formula. So I know exactly what they're looking for. So they're good to have. But I do a lot of JV deals, and I love it. You get someone to brainstorm with when obstacles come up, when there's a random open permit and you're like, oh shoot, you gotta get this closed now, and the seller's not gonna do it. So you gotta run around and talk to the city and
Yes.
do all this stuff and drive to their house, get their signature, and then drive to the city to put that paperwork in. Like, but you can tag team with someone and be like, hey, can you do this? Or can you take this showing and I'll be over here? So I actually personally love JV deals. I grew up playing on team sports. So I love the extra set of eyes and the hand and the working together and not being so alone in this business.
And it kind of reminds me of this analogy, and I can't even remember like where I heard of it, but it's like, when you're going to go on a hike and you're at the bottom of the mountain and you're looking all the way up at the top, like that mountain seems like ginormous. You're just like, there's no way I can hike that. But let you have about 4 friends with you and you look at that mountain, it's like, we could take that job.
Yes. We got this.
Yeah. And then it's like, now you actually have somebody to do it with you. The journey doesn't seem so lonely. And so as we're kind of talking about having those people around, I know I heard you mention that you have your community. I suggest that everybody get a coach and be a part of a community, because I feel like you are going to be more prone to take the action steps that you need to when you're a part of a community that first of all, that you've paid for to be in, first of all, because I know I'm the type of person, I spend money, I'm trying to get all my little money's worth, honey.
Yes, right? Every penny. I'm going to get everything I can get.
Yes. Like seriously though. So tell us the importance of being a part of community, being a part of coaching, what that has done for you and what you recommend for other people.
Right. So I joined the astro flipping community, and it's been amazing. Like Jamil's on the coach calls himself, so you get to ask him questions, and you're getting answers from someone who's been doing this like even before the whole like 2008 thing. Like he lost everything and built it back and bigger than what he had before. So getting coaching from someone like that is invaluable. Not to mention you're in the community, so you can post anything, and there's someone that has gone through what it is you are struggling with. There is someone, at least one, that has gone through it, and they can walk you through how to get over it, go around it, go through it, go under it. Like they can kind of help you with that obstacle. And now with my experience, I'm now that person helping and jumping in when someone has questions and giving feedback, and it's just this whole pay it forward type of vibe. And it is really really invaluable. And it can anyway. It has the potential, because ultimately it comes to you, but it has the potential to help shortcut your way to success.
Yeah, I agree with that like wholeheartedly. When I started in this real estate investing journey, I was one of those people who were like, I could just watch YouTube. I can just, I didn't see the value in having a coach. And then when I saw other people that had started around the same time as me that had gotten coaching, I just saw how much faster they were able to progress. And I'm just like, wow, like that's exactly what I need. Like I need to be a part of some sort of like community, a mentorship, a coaching, because you really do get that in, like Miah said, that invaluable knowledge that somebody else has already gone through, because it's like, why recreate the wheel?
Right.
Like this real estate investing has been along here for I don't know how long, well before my grandparents and their grandparents. Like real estate has been a huge source of wealth for many years. So that people have made the same mistakes that you've made, and that there's people that are willing to give you that information to help you. I feel like a lot of the times we're afraid to speak up, or we're afraid to ask our questions because we feel like, oh, wait, I'm incompetent or whatever. But I think I just need people to know that when you allow yourself to ask questions and be the student, first of all, it's humbling, but second of all, it requires more courage to do that than just to stay silent.
Yes.
You know what I
And
mean?
you get what you need, right? You get what you need, and you can move, keep moving the needle forward. There was just some guy, I can't remember how he found me, but he was just asking me questions about the contract, and I love getting in teacher mode. And I was like, well, do you know what this word means? Yes, I know what this means. And I was like, okay, well, do you know what this means? Yes. Okay. I was like, so think about it. So if they're saying, right, and so we're like going back and forth like this to help with the critical thinking, because sometimes also we see something that we don't recognize and we immediately shut down, and it goes to, I don't know.
Yep.
But we're intelligent. We are intelligent beings. Some things we can read and figure out. And then the question is, does what I think this mean is that true? As opposed to, I don't know. Right. But do some thinking. Like that's what I mean by like read the contract first. Then if something doesn't make sense, right? Try to figure it out. Go to Google, look up some words you don't understand. And if you still can't piece it together, then that's where you can ask some help. But no one likes helping someone that doesn't help themselves. Like you gotta put in work first.
Girl, let's say that one more time. Nobody likes to, I'll say it again. Nobody likes to help somebody who is not willing to help themselves first, y'all.
Yeah. You
Like
gotta put in the work first.
You have to show that you've put in some sort of effort. You've read some stuff, you've looked at some stuff, you've done your due diligence. Because and like I always say, be able to add value. Don't just go to a Miah and say, oh, hey Miah, okay, so how do I wholesale?
Right.
What do I do first? Okay, well, first of all, look,
go watch some videos. That's what you do first. Go watch some videos.
Right.
And then call me again.
That way you're not answering basic questions, but
right.
You can really get down to the meat of where the learning curve is.
Right.
But I want to talk about that fear aspect really quick, because I think that fear really stops people in their tracks from moving forward. And so what are some things that you were fearful of that you kind of had to like dismantle those fears in order for you to move forward? Like, I know I had a huge fear of talking to sellers at first. Like literally it would make my stomach hurt to get on the phone with a seller. It's like the whole time it's ringing, I'm like, Lord, I hope they don't answer. I hope they don't. Hello. Oh, hi. Yep. Okay. All right. I'm done. Oh my God. So talk about fears.
Okay. So yes, I'm afraid of talking to sellers still present day.
Okay.
But I knew that. And so when I got into wholesaling, I was actually attracted to, so before Jamil, there was Lily Thompson, and she teaches the MLS strategy. And so she was teaching us to practice having conversations with realtors. So before you even like try to comp a property or do anything, just like call and like ask them questions about their property and like get the reps in,
Yeah.
And that really helped. And then so I had that going into Astro, and Jamil was teaching the same thing, agent outreach and all of that. But I already had a few reps in me, and at least talking about properties. Now, I didn't have reps talking about when you're just doing a blank outreach and you're like, hey, can you help me find a property? But so I was terrified. I remember when I was doing my agent outreach, and I would like have the number, that I have the number, and I'm looking at Sasha, and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna call. Okay, let's role play this through. So I'm gonna say, and I would like practice. I'm like, hey, how you doing, so and so? You know, I'm Miah. I'm an investor in the area. I could use some help finding my investment property. And I'm like, all right. And I'm talking to Sash, like, so if they say this, like, hit me with that response, and then this is gonna be my reply. And so we're like role playing this, and then you call, and you're like pacing around the living room. You're just like pacing. Okay, and then they pick up, and you're like, hey, and I have a stutter. I have a stutter that comes out when I'm very anxious and excited, or
Yes.
nervous. And so now I'm like stuttering through the whole thing. And oh my goodness.
Girl, I understand. Oh, I understand.
So that was definitely terrifying. I did try direct to seller, and that was terrifying as well. And that was on a dialer for that one. And I remember, and you know, the dialer, you don't hear it ring, so it's just like silence, and you're just like,
Yep.
just hope it just stays silent. Just and then you hear the hello. You're like, hi, hey there, hi, my name is Miah. How are you doing today? And then you're like looking for your script, and you have your script, and because you don't really know it, and you're just like, okay, oh wait, they asked this. Where's the reply? All right. And
You know what? But people, I don't think people realize how, it really is nerve-wracking when you're trying to talk to those sellers. And so, like me, you guys, I was very, very nervous, very scared to talk to sellers. But then when you think about it and you ask yourself, Talisa, why are you scared? Like, fear is basically when you are afraid that you are going to be harmed, or like you're in danger. I'm not about to be harmed, nor am I in danger. So why am I afraid? And
yeah.
then what do you say, Miah?
Well, I was just gonna say a lot of that is because it's new, and
Yep.
you're afraid of what happens next, right? Because you don't know the process really. Like I so with talking to agents, it's like, so what happens next? Like they send me a property, I comp it. I'm not comfortable in my comping yet. Like I'm so new, so I'm nervous to present myself as this investor. And I like all I did was buy my house, and there's plenty of wholesalers who start and they haven't even bought a house. So you have that fear, like I don't even know anything about this transaction, and yet I'm calling you, and I'm having to, present myself as confident. So that's where I was nervous with that. And then with direct to seller, it was the same. The direct to seller, I felt even more like that sense of responsibility, because now there's no agent in between us. So it is really up to me to make sure you get your house sold.
Yeah.
It's not really up to me, but that's what it feels like when you're about to call, because it's like if they say yes, then it is game on, and I need to be able to show up.
Right. And you guys, just like anything, because like Miah was saying, like every single part of this, if you're new, every single part is going to be new, from you, calling the seller, to you getting it under contract, to you opening escrow. Like all of those things are going to be new. And so the approach that I would suggest is, well, how do you eat a cow? You eat it in pieces. You don't try to eat the whole cow all at once. You take one bite at a time until the cow is devoured. And that's what I would recommend, is just take it one step at a time. Master, maybe it's getting on the phone with the seller. So maybe you just call sellers all day long, and you just get yourself comfortable hearing your own voice, getting confident in your own voice. Because I can say that when I first started, I probably sounded like a robot. I probably sounded, because I was so scripted. Well, how long have you been thinking about selling your property? Well, I haven't really thought about it. You called me. So it's like, okay, well, what's the condition of your property? Well, you can go by and see it if you want to go take a look at it. And so it's like, so
Yep, those are the responses.
yeah, and but the more that you have those conversations, the easier it starts to become, to where you start calling sellers. Like a seller I got on the phone with last week, and I can kind of gauge their tone as soon as they pick up the phone. And I'm the kind of person where Look, I'm gonna put my mama out on blast for a minute. When we were younger, we were the kind of kids, we had to know our mom's facial expressions. We had
Oh,
to know her tone of voice, and we had to act accordingly. And so at some point I might have been like a little bit too hyped for my mom, and then I'll see a look on her face or hear like a tone of her voice, and I'll automatically bring it down. Like, okay, she's not in the mood for that. So I think because of that trauma, I've I've got this skill set of where I can listen to the tone of people, and I can sort of adjust how I approach them based on how they respond. And so I had a lady who answered the phone last week, and I'm like, hey, what was her name? It started with the E. Eileen. I'm like, hey, Eileen, it's Talisa. Somebody from my team reached out to you about your property. Are you still interested in selling? And she's just like, oh, yeah. Well, who's this again? I'm like, yeah, I literally just talked to you like she's my girlfriend.
right,
And that's the way that I had to put it in my head. Like, Talisa, talk to these sellers as if they're like your friends or your cousin. And so I stopped trying to sound like everybody else. I still had my own script, but I was like, I'm gonna give them me. If they're
yeah,
not feeling me when we're talking, then they're not going to feel me at closing either. And so it's like, if I'm not able to make that connection with you from the jump, then I don't feel like I've really, it's not, I don't feel like I've done my job, but I don't really feel like that relationship is going to go much further if
yeah,
I wasn't really able to capture you in that first phone call. So if after that first phone call, you're still being really ugly, you're still just being very blunt, then I might just put you on my call list for maybe like 90 days from now so
right,
that we can just follow up with you. But I'm not going to continue to pursue you every day
right,
versus somebody who seems like they're excited to hear from me. I mean, I have my sellers on my Instagram talking about, oh my God, girl, you're so beautiful. And I'm like, thank you, girl. you know, or they'll reach out to me like, hey, Talisa, how's it going? Haven't heard from you in a while. And these are like sellers who we've already closed deals with. Some of them we haven't ever been able to close a deal because I wasn't able to give them their asking price. But I'm like, but hey, reach out to me if you need anything at all. Like, I'm
right,
in the
right.
area. But it's like when you just start to build those relationships and you start to look at these people as these are people.
Yes,
These are just people. They're in a situation. A lot of the times, the information that you have is the very surface of what's going on. When you start to get in underneath the
right,
surface, you
right,
start to see that, okay, well, their mom's about to die and they live in Alabama and they want to move to Alabama and they don't really want to have to take all their furniture. So they want to leave the
right,
furniture here. So since they want to leave the furniture here, well, why don't I suggest, well, don't worry about the furniture. Me and my team will worry about give when you listen to them and then you offer them solutions that are able to help their situation, they're more likely to continue to do business with you.
absolutely.
What are your thoughts on that, Miah?
No, I 100% agree. But that confidence and um that comfort level does come with just getting the reps in, and just talking to people, and that's a skill. I would even say, like, if you aren't going to networking events too, like, because that skill crosses over. Like when you walk into a venue and that's it, you just see people talking and don't nobody know you. You got to go up and say, "Hey, my name's Mia. What's your name?"
Right.
Hey, how are you doing today? Right? And to just start a conversation with a total stranger, that skill set does cross over to sellers. And someone told me, oh my gosh, can't remember his name, Juan something. Oh goodness, if he sees this, he's gonna be so upset. But his name is Juan, and he mentioned one of his best tidbits he gave for me is to be, of course, like, be yourself. Don't be robotic, but part of that too that kind of helps the flow of the conversation is when someone asks you how you're doing, don't be robotic and just say good. Tell
Ooh.
someone. Like, someone asked me, I was doing my agent outreach, and lady was like, "Hi, I'm just returning your phone call." I was like, "Oh, hey, thanks for returning." She's like, "Okay, how are you doing today?" I said, "Man, actually, right now I'm a little annoyed. I just had 3 mosquito bites because that actually just happened." I said, "This mosquito just bit me 3 times on my arm," and I was like, but hey, that's
Right.
she was like, "Oh gosh, I hate when that happens." I said, "No, it's the worst." And I said, but all right, thank you so much for calling me back, right? But that already breaks the ice. It makes you feel like a person. Oftentimes, like I'll tell someone like, I am super hungry right now. Like, and I realize that I worked through lunch. Like, I'll just say whatever it is, however I'm honestly feeling. If I'm exhausted, if I feel great, like whatever it is, if I'm just like, if they catch me while I'm cuddling with my dog, how are you doing? Oh man, I am enjoying these snuggles with my pit bull right now. Whatever it is, I say it so that it immediately cuts off the monotonous, the robotic, right? That just like,
yes, like she's a person.
yes.
She got a mosquito bite. She's a person, right?
And then the other person gets to relate, and then you ask them how they're doing, and guess what? They're going to tell you exactly how they're doing. They're not going to be like good. They're gonna be like, oh, well, you know what? Actually, right now, and then now that the ice is broken.
Yes. Oh man, if y'all didn't get anything from this podcast, I pray that you guys listen to that, okay? Miah just dropped some gems right now, you guys, and that is so simple. How are you doing? You know what? I am really agitated right now that I got bit by these mosquitoes, but it's all good. How are you doing?
Right?
Like that it's such a good icebreaker, and automatically you guys have built this connection because now they know something personal about you, and more than likely they're going to tell you something personal about them, which then opens up that dialogue to then talk about their property. Right? We don't want to just go right into, oh yeah, I was calling about your property. Are you? But it's like, okay, let's warm people up first. I mean, I know if you ever been with, well, anyhow, I know that when I was dating back in high school, even though I was just dating my husband, but anyhow, when he was trying to like fill up on me or whatever, I'm like, you got to warm me up. Like you can't just like go straight in and just start. No,
right.
You got to get that train like kind of going a little bit, like tease it a little bit, whatever. So,
but that's true. That is true with anything. You can't just like just jump in there, with a stranger. Like these are total strangers. They don't know nothing about you. You can tell them.
Absolutely. That is so true. Okay, you guys, I know that we've been on this for almost an hour. We're going to wrap up. I just have one more question for Miah, one more question, and this is just for the people who are watching. Miah, we all know that when we know better, we do better. Yes. Okay. So what can you tell the people? What advice would you give somebody that you learned that you wish that somebody would have taught you prior to you coming into this real estate investing journey?
It was actually something that Jamil said. There were two turning points in the very beginning that stopped me from having deals. The first one was being scatterbrained, and I was trying multiple strategies at once, right? So I would say whatever lane you want to choose, it doesn't mean you're going to be stuck there forever, but to get started and to build momentum and to build up confidence, choose one strategy and stick with it. Like that was like the biggest thing. So that was a turning point for me. The second one was fall in love with what you're doing. That was, I was using wholesaling as a means to an end, and I wasn't falling in love with the process. And so therefore the universe wasn't giving me closed deals. I was getting contracts, but I couldn't assign them, or a buyer would fall out. Like there was always an obstacle. And Jamil started digging deeper, those layers that we were talking about, right? That you do with sellers. You start digging deeper, and he's like, oh, it's your mindset. He was like, you need to fall in love with this. He told me, he said, you're dating wholesaling knowing that you're not going to marry her. Like you're just dating, but it's not going anywhere. You're like, hey, I'm going to date you, but I really want to marry you over there. But while I got to wait for you, I'm going to date this person.
Ooh, that's so good.
And he was like, you gotta fall in love. So once I changed my mindset and I started viewing myself as just an all-around investor, and that wholesaling is an avenue that I'm doing now that I may be doing forever. I don't know, who cares, but it is what I'm doing now. So I'm going to fall in love with it. And then the deal started flowing. So so choose a strategy and fall in love, like just fall in love with it. Whatever you do in real estate, even if you just do traditional real estate and you're like, I'm going to be a buyer's agent, a seller's agent, Like be the best. Like be the best at whatever you want to do. If all you want to do is flip, if all you want to do is Airbnb, like whatever it is, be the best at it and fall in love with the process. Like that changes everything.
Ooh, fall in love, man. And then Mia, real quick, for those who don't know how to fall in love with something, what would you say is just like the first step to just trying to fall in love with something that you're doing?
Have fun with it and celebrate all the tiny wins. So don't make it about the outcome, make it about the journey. So even if it's just like, oh, I had a really good conversation with a seller, right? Celebrate that conversation. Even if it doesn't turn into a deal, like, man, I just did that. I just crushed that conversation. It was amazing. Like, feel good, right? If it gets to the next step, celebrate it. Oh, yes, like we got this up. We got the contract. This is great. I love it. Like celebrate all those little moments every single day, no matter how small it is. Like, don't focus on the outcome. Like, be very present. Be very, very present and enjoy it and have fun. Have fun. That's
Woo.
the easiest way.
Oh, y'all, she dropped some gems. I hope that y'all heard what she said. Okay. I mean, it's literally as simple as that. Fall in love with what you're doing. Stick to your niche because anybody can be a master. I mean, what is it called? A master of all, a jack of all
Jack
trades,
of all
but a
trades
master of
and a
none.
master of none.
Yeah, say that one more time, Mia. Say it for the people.
Jack of all trades and a master of none.
You guys, nobody wants a jack of all trades and a master of none. If I'm hiring somebody, I don't want you good at everything. I need a dispositions manager. I need to know that you are good in dispositions. I need this. People will go directly to you and they will flock to you when you have narrowed down your niche and you've now become the expert in your niche. You're going to get so much more business because everybody's going to look at me and say, oh, Mia does this in Florida. So when I need this, I'm going to call Mia, right? And so you guys heard it from the woman's mouth herself. So I am this episode was amazing. Mia, thank you so much for doing this such short notice. And I apologize about our timing issues.
No, it is okay. It works itself out. It is all good. I'm
But
happy
you
to be here. This has been amazing. And I love speaking and I love teaching because so many people helped me. So I hope that I try to make sure that everything that I do is helping someone else, right? Because that's the only way to pay it back is to pay it forward.
seriously, so Mia, if people want to do deals with you or they want to reach out to you for like paid mentorship or whatever, where do they reach you at? How do they contact you? Give the people your info.
Well, we can definitely do deals together. My phone number is 954-444-3019. My email address is Miah at Smith Lee Lee Holdings.com. If you don't grab that, just text me. You'll be able to get it. I'm not doing any mentorship. If for whatever reason you want to look into the mentorship that I did do, I can definitely put in a good word. And I believe a referral gives you like a discount or something too. I'll have to look into that. But if you want to do deals, my primary market is South Florida. So that's Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach County. However, I have dispo arms all throughout Florida and some buyers in the other areas too. So I can still help move anything throughout the whole state.
Okay, y'all heard that. She gave her phone number, she gave her email address, and she just gave you guys the markets that she's doing deals in. So reach out to her, close some deals together. Mia, it was such a joy having you on the show.
Teresa, thank you so much. Like this has been the best. I'm so glad that we were able to connect through Brittany. And I knew from our first conversation that it was going to be a great relationship. I didn't know a podcast would come out of it, but it's even better. But I just knew you're like you, girl, like you are taking this real estate thing like to the moon. I love it. I love it. Like, you're crushing it, and it's amazing to see. And I love seeing more of us, right? Like Black women, like doing our thing here.
Yes to everything, y'all. And like she just said, us Black women, so you guys can get into this too. I mean, if we're doing it, I'm a nobody. I really am. I'm just a basic regular chick who was a C student who had a baby at 15. Like, like anybody can do this. If I could do this, if Mia could do this, you guys can do this too. So I love you. We will see you again next week. And you guys stay tuned in. Bye.
Thank you again, Talisa.
Bye.